Welcome back to Low Power Mode with Breezy. This is episode 14, and it's going to get a little intense, but it's going to be fun too. So, see you there.
I got an excess of black bile, high irascibility, contemplating checking myself into facility, mental ability clearly affected,
deep in the dumps, down and dejected.
I've been in low power mode, in low power mode, been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear. I've been in low. I've been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear.
All right, so it's been a pretty wild week for me personally. Learning a lot though, and but it's been wild out there too, and it's been really wild for Megan Thee Stallion. So we're gonna kick it off with the music section with some Megan Thee Stallion music. Okay, here we go. So first of all, I want to congratulate Megan Thee Stallion on a kick-ass Coachella performance. And I was able to tune in a little bit over live stream, and she, as usual, just out there with the bars on bars on bars with the dance routines on top of that. And that takes so much talent and skill and energy and flexibility and just being an overall badass entertainer. So huge congratulations. I think there she first shared her new song Plan B, which is what we're talking about today. And then she dropped Plan B like a week or two ago. And oof, if you love old school hip hop, if you love like bad boy entertainment, if you love like New York style hip hop, like this is a very classic old school beat. This is a classic like sample, and everyone's first, I think what first comes to mind for everyone is like, oh, this is so like Lil' Kim. But yeah, this isn't just Lil' Kim. This is Busta Rhymes. This is like that era, that like golden era of hip hop type of beat, but very like New York and very boom bap old school. So for those of us born in the 80s, it was music to our ears. And nothing against trap. And yeah, she just, okay. So if you're not familiar with Megan Thee Stallion, she's born Megan Pete. Her mother was a rapper, and she was going to school. She's from Houston, Texas. She was going to school to be a nurse when like she just kind of blew up all of a sudden, and then like had a very quick and successful rise to the top. And she dropped like a bunch of EPs. I think she had Tina Snow in 2018. There was Fever in 2019, Sugar in 2020, and then she dropped like her like album Good News in November 2020, which I love that album so much. So I was already a huge fan, but when she gifted us with that, it was like wow. And then in 2021 she did Something for the Hotties, which was like a thank you, quote unquote, to her fans, which she calls hotties. She styles herself like the hot girl coach and real hot girl shit, and she's got this whole like hot girl thing going on. But what it really is asserting dominance in a patriarchal, world and also genre of music, hip hop. she just comes in there, and it's really like, not only does she kind of take that level of when you have black cis men like talking about like what they're gonna do to women, over these beats and everything, and it's like it's just there's no redeeming factors. So she does that for she flips it on its head and does that like for as like shit, forgot to mute my themes. Okay, my bad. Sorry about that. I just remember I'm also engineering this podcast, so it's a lot to think about all at once. But Megan, she like reclaims dominance as a woman in hip hop, and it's fierce as fuck. And not only does she do that, but she's got like a deeper message of feminism, like at the bottom of everything. And if you listen to it off the top, like I remember my dad, he never got down with hip hop because of the swear words. But for me, I feel like you're missing out on so much. Obviously, there's some stuff that turns me off too, but you're missing out on so much if you let something like that bother you. And I think with Megan, don't just listen to her track or her album once. Listen to it a few times and realize how subversive and fucking badass she's being. She does it in every song. She manages to do it in every single song. And I have so many good things to say about this artist. I mean, if you don't already follow her, like, you got to. She's just so inspirational, and what she, like, her path is wild. She's in Houston, and her father passed when she was 15 years old. And then right, like, while she's in college, like right in the midst of everything, as she's starting to come up as a rapper on the scene, she drops Big Ol' Freak, which is like, it's a great song, great video. Her mother passes, and I think she was like super, super close with her mother, and her mother was a rapper, so obviously inspired her. And she was close with her grandmother as well. Shortly after that, her grandmother passes. So that's a little bit of context for like what is to come in her story. But she's in college studying to be a nurse, wants to like open her own like nursing home. But then her rap career just blows up. So it's crazy how much this Black woman has been through. Like just the rise to fame and what all that is, while at the same time losing like your family and like the two most close people to you in your life. Like, I just can't imagine it. I can't imagine it. So it makes everything that she's achieved that much more impressive to me. And yeah, Plan B. She has like a Kendrick Lamar way about her, in that Kendrick manages to like triumph from his trauma in like all of his songs. And he can be very vulnerable, and still there's like a winningness about it. And I feel like that's Megan as well. Like she's changing the game, and she has a positive attitude and just seems like a dream to work with, and just really professional. And so I felt like this was important to talk about. Normally I'm not like doing, celebrity gossip and stuff, but in 2020, Megan was at a party at like some Kardashian's house, and a pool party or whatever, and they all hopped in a car, and it was her and her friend and Tory Lanez, a rapper from Canada who I had never heard of until this, and who knows like what their relation was at the time or whatever, but there was them and like a driver. I think there's an additional driver or something, and Tory Lanez had a gun, excuse me, and he ended up shooting Megan in the foot. Now, what was wild about this was, okay, not only did like some nobody come and shoot Megan Thee Stallion, like our hero, our superwoman, but what happened was, she, right off the bat, her approach was to protect everyone involved and not basically cover for him and not tell the truth, but say what needed to be said so that no one was going to be killed that night by the police. It's an incredible, selfless thing to do, and it's an incredibly Black thing to do. And so I remember this happening and remember reading about it, and it's just heartbreaking, because how the fuck would someone shoot at there's so much that's incomprehensible about it. But the reason why I bring it up is because about a week ago, Megan did an interview on CBS Morning with Gayle King. And I appreciated, Gayle is a Black woman who's probably seen a lot, and notably Oprah's best friend. So it was a kind of like like the platform for, or like the type of, I feel like Gayle's like the perfect type of person to kind of draw this out of Megan, and her being a Black woman made it feel safe for Megan to talk about it. This is how I interpret it. So they do this interview, and it's really heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking because essentially Tory Lanez got off on bail, and it really feels like there's like no repercussions for this person who, again, we don't know, like were they fucking, were they friends, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, how can you shoot? It still doesn't make no sense to me. But what was revealed in the interview was that Megan, she was riding with them in the car, and there was an argument, and it was getting heated, and so she asked them to stop the car, and they let her out of the car, and then eventually they convinced her to get back in the car. So she got back in the car, and that's when shit gets super fucking fuzzy. She asked them to pull the car over again, let her out the car, like they wouldn't, and then they did. And so I think she had just I think she was out of the car when he shot at her, but he shot multiple times at this woman. Are you fucking kidding me? What would ever possess you? Like, she said she wasn't even part of the conversation. So what the hell would possess you in this? If we want to break it down, like, yes, of course, his inability to express himself and turning to guns instead of words, to express feelings. It's unbelievable. It's absolutely fucking disgusting. So he shot at her multiple times, hits her in the foot. The friend in the car calls the police. Almost immediately, like, there's helicopters and like things have gotten to like an OJ like Simpson in the car runaway like level of surveillance. And it's just so fucked up. Like, you see footage from it's police footage of her in a bikini limping in the middle of the street, and you can see that her foot, like, there's dark spots from after where her foot steps down. And she said that when the cops came up to her and asked her what happened, she said she stepped on glass. And again, like, you have to understand what like in terms of protection, what a baller move it was to not be like, yo, that dude, he shot me, and make a whole big scene, but be like, I stepped on glass. Now the level of it is wild. It's like something clearly happened and everybody knows what happened, but you're not going to say it because you're protecting someone. I mean, my heart is just torn into pieces because on the one hand, I'm like, absolutely, like, we don't need more Black people to be killed by the police. But Megan, this was not you. This was not your, you know what I mean? Like, this is not your burden. And then on the other hand, it's like, that motherfucker who shot you should, I mean, yeah, but that's the thing. That's what we have to go through in our mind. What should or would happen? This is double consciousness. What should or would happen in a world that does give a fuck about Black people, and what does and will probably happen in our world in the States today. It's fucked up. It's just so fucked up that that all that was put on her in that moment. So in the end, she was able to come around, she was able to come around and see how harmful that decision was for her, or maybe not harmful, because I think she did prevent another Black person from getting killed by the police that day. But it was really interesting. At one point, Gail asks her, people still don't believe that this happened to you, that this even happened to you. People still don't believe you. And she said, I'm not doing this for them. I'm doing this for me. And it was so powerful. It was so powerful to hear her say that, because as a Black woman in the States, she's always going to be under attack, always. So her making space for herself to share truth and to share her trauma and what she went through, how she was victimized in this situation. Like, she literally says, I am the victim. And it's so fucked up that she has to say that, It's just so cold, this world that we live in. It's called low power mode for a reason. But yeah, I just wanted to present that to you, like, as like a barometer of where we're at. This happened in 2020. Current day is 2022. So Tory Lanez, I don't know exactly when he was released, but could have been 2021. So like things, took a while and this is where we're at. He still has fans. I think he put out music about it. Like, are you, like he put out like something about like, who even knows if, and another heartbreaking detail was when she was shot, when Tori hit her, he immediately knew he fucked up because you just shot someone who you love. Like, what the And so the first thing he says to her, she's like, help, I'm bleeding, help. And he's like, I'll give you $1 million not to say anything. Like, she's like, what are you even talking about money for? Like, this is the state of things in the States for a famous rapper who is black and a woman. She gets shot by another rapper, and that rapper's just walking around free, making money off of it. It's just disgusting. And this is why it's important to support. This is why it's important to support independent artists who are black, who are femme, who are queer, who are disabled, who fall into any sort of marginalized group, because those groups are constantly under attack. And by giving your dollars, we know, like, with capitalism, with the capitalist system that we live in, where we spend our money is the most important thing. So I'm not talking about streaming. I'm talking about buying music. Like, buy a song from Megan Thee Stallion, support her. Yeah, I'll never apologize for it. I'm so passionate about this, and I can't believe this happened. It's one thing for the psychological damage to happen, to someone like Lauryn Hill, let's say, but for someone in a similar place in society or in music or in hip hop to be physically shot by another rapper, another black person, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Breathing, coming back. Okay, so I want to end this section there. Thank you for tuning in, and definitely bump Plan B. It's so good. Bump it this summer. Add it to your playlists and all that stuff. I'm sure we'll get a video. She's so generous as an artist. Like, just the sheer amount of work that she's put in over the past 5 years. It's insane. Okay, that's gonna wrap it up for music, and I'll see you in TV. Television. All right, welcome back. Welcome to the TV section. So I know that I've talked about RuPaul's Drag Race before. I think it was months ago, because this season has gone on for so long. I think we started in January and now it's April. So, or today is actually 1st of May. So, but happy 1st of May. Also, hope that went well in Berlin. Okay, so what are we talking about? We're talking about Drag Race. January, February, March, April. 4 months where each week we've been tuning in for sometimes laughs, sometimes not, sometimes looks, sometimes not. No, it's been such a funny, quirky, weird, wild season. So yeah, if you don't know about RuPaul's Drag Race, RuPaul is like the first drag queen to take drag to the mainstream. Drag Race started in 2009 and they're in their 14th season. Think Tyra Banks from America's Next Top Model, and then think a way more fun, nicer, gayer version of that, and that's Drag Race. It's essentially where all the like theater kids and misfits and music kids and artsy kids and nerdy kids and like all the weird kids go. And it's also like, yeah, it's queer. It's a queer like phenomenon, cultural phenomenon, because the show started out and it was fun and it was Drag Race and everyone watched it at the gay bar, and it's grown to be so big. They have had so many iterations of Drag Race, like Drag Race All Stars and Drag Race. They have Untucked, which is simply just like the behind the scenes footage of each episode. They have like all these different branches. And what's cool is that each year we get to know a new cast of like 14 drag queens who show different versions of themselves: comedy, singing, dancing, roasting, all different skills and things, entertainment skills. So the show is almost like a boot camp for entertainers, drag entertainers. And any person in show business, or like, yeah, doing shows, doing gigs, doing entertainment, I think can take something from Drag Race. Especially if you're like a queer person, like I definitely think Drag Race is so awesome too, because they focus on the personal stories of the queens and what their trauma is, and we see how that holds them back from getting to the place where they need to be in order to get the crown, you know? So what I love about Drag Race is that RuPaul, or I guess this is more what I love about RuPaul, is that when, like, before Drag Race was a thing, RuPaul had been really famous in the 90s and then kind of had fallen off. And Ru was kind of searching for a way to come back. And Ru's close friends, who are the executive producers of the show, I think their names are like Randy Lerman and Fenton Bailey, and there's another one in there. But I think I have this image of them because Ru talked about it on his podcast with Michelle Visage called What's the Tea, which if you're a Drag Race fan and you like podcasts, super great, because they just have like all the guests from the show and different entertainers come through and talk about their stuff. So in the What's the Tea podcast, Ru was saying, I did not want to do a reality TV show. And when like Randy and Fenton came to him and said, you know, it's got to be a reality TV show, RuPaul was like, no, like, I don't want to do that. Reality TV show, like, what's it called? Contest TV. Oh, I'm butchering this, but you know what I mean? Like the contests, like American Idol and that sort of thing. RuPaul was like, no, it's too mean. It gets too, it's just, it's not, he was like, no. Then he thought about it, and it's really one of those things like where the times are moving in a certain direction, and you're either moving with the times or you're not. So it really was the way forward. I'm sure he felt like it would be like getting on TikTok, you know, like for me, I just recently am like, okay, this is how artists are finding success and new fans. Start a TikTok profile, but it's been like the last thing that my troglodyte ass wants to do. So I totally love that Ru never wanted the reality TV show, but that he changed his mind, he went with it, and this is what it's turned into, this wonderful cultural place where you can go and find a drag queen like you and buy all their merch or go meet them at the DragCon conference that they have every May, and or go see them live on tour, or go see them at the bars. I think I mentioned that I went and saw Carrie Colby at the, what's it called? The Port Bar in Oakland, in downtown Oakland. And it was like free. You could just go in and watch Drag Race, and there's a drag show. And me and my mom are too old, so we left before the drag show. But we stayed for watching Drag Race, and she was just there narrating with Amora Vantis, a local drag queen. And it was so fun. I was like 2 feet from her. She's the most gorgeous person I've ever seen. Like, just, you know, like, I'm not really attracted to women like that, like femmes and stuff, but like she's like, wow. So yeah, it was so fun to tune in this year. The queens all seem very sensitive, quirky, smart, like they've been cooped up for 2 years and haven't been around anyone. If you know what I mean. Like, it's just been, I don't know. I feel like the times are definitely changing, and I think this season of Drag Race really gives you an example of that. But something that was really cool was that, excuse me 1 second for water. All right, something that was really cool was that at the beginning of the season, out of the, I think there are 14 contestants, Carrie Colby was the only one who identified as a trans woman. And at this point now, after the show has finished, 5 of the queens identify as trans women. I believe this includes Cornbread the Snack Jeté, Willow Pill, Bosco, and Jasmine Kennedy, in addition to Carrie Colby. And so what happened was that these formerly identifying as gay men came into a situation, or maybe they were already on their journeys, you know, beforehand, but came into a situation where there was someone like them who totally co-signed and supported them, and that gave them the strength to come out fully as trans. And that's so powerful and cool, and like, I don't know, it's like, it really feels like we're getting queerer and queerer, and like the masses are growing, that our numbers are growing. and yeah, I don't know. I'm just, I love this because trans folks don't get a lot of like wins. So for 5 of them to like be on the same cast of RuPaul's Drag Race, not only that, like, we're talking gender identity this season. We also had the first straight drag queen in that, and I think Maddie identifies as non-binary. So not necessarily like cisgender drag queen, but drag queen who is assigned male at birth, or AMAB, and with someone assigned female at birth. So the rules for who's allowed to participate in Drag Race or in drag has just, the door has been busted wide open this season. You can be a straight cis man, you can be a trans Black woman, you can be whoever the fuck and do drag. And that's the coolest thing. It's using clothes and makeup and comedy and performance and dance and like all these things to create a persona that you can use as a show. And I feel like for me as an artist, you know, the more I watched Drag Race, I was like, oh my God, I do drag. Like, I'm a drag like, I'm kind of like a drag performer, because I gather what I'm going to wear for my show and in the makeup and the things, and get my look together and all that shit. And I get my music together, and I try to like dance and do my thing and sing and and like engage and entertain. And that's what drag performers do. And so watching Drag Race, it's just a blast. So so yeah, the season was just wild. We just had the finale, and it was so much fun. Everyone looked great. The finalists were, now Rue was feeling very generous this season, so we had a top 5, which felt very, controversial among the queens. Why not top 3? Why not top 4? So it was Bosco, Diabetti, Cornbread, oh my God. Bosco, Diabetti, Willow Pill, Lady Camden, and who's the 5th one? Angeria Van Paris Michaels. I always kind of forget her name. So it's probably because everyone pronounces her name with like 80 million more words than there are. So it was super fun. Each of the queens had a special song that was like made for them, and they did their performances. And then there was like a top 2 chosen to do like a final performance. So it was really fun. And they also chose Miss Congeniality, which ended up being Cornbread, which Cornbread got injured her ankle, injured her ankle in the beginning of the season, had to leave after like 2. I swear I muted that. Okay. I'm using a new software for recording, so there's a lot going on. Okay, so Cornbread hurt her ankle, and it was, had to go home essentially, and was kicked out of the competition. And Cornbread was one of the fiercest competitors off for like right from the start. Everyone was team Cornbread. So that was really nice that she got Miss Congeniality, because it means a cash prize, and it means like you're part of like the family in a more deep way. And so that was really special. So each of the queens did their own song and dance. I felt like I love Angeria as a queen so much. I'm rooting for everybody Black. I love that both of her parents were at Drag Race finale and supporting her. Her song and dance was didn't do anything for me. And I didn't really like what she was wearing for her. I loved her look with the peacock feathers and her entrance look, but I didn't love what she wore for the lip sync. But it was a great final showing, and good job, Angeria. Diabetti, she did this thing about like being a fighter and had like this bug peacock thing. It was very weird and very Diabetti. It was cool. It was good. My thoughts on Diabetti was she was a great bitch this season. We really needed a bitch, and you can't just be everyone's friends. And so she really did great with that. But yeah, her song and dance didn't really do it for me either. Then we had Bosco, and Bosco's was really cool. Like there was all these wings and feathers and stuff that she was kind of like singing from within, and there were dancers, and then it like pulled away to be something different and dark and weird in Bosco. So that was really fun. Bosco is like this like cabaret, like burlesque devil from Seattle. So it's really fun. She's weird and quirky, and she was the comedy queen this season. So kudos to her. Okay, so my top 2 queens were Lady Camden and Willow Pill. Now, Lady Camden was not one of my right off the bat front runners. She really, I grew to love her along the course of the season, and she also is Bay Area. So living out here, it's really fun because she was just like around, she was, before she like jet set it off to do her Drag Race tour life. But yeah, it was really cool that she was one of our local queens. And I ended up doing this photo shoot with someone who had done her photos. I saw her photos on Instagram and saw who did her photos. And I was like, oh, this person is local. I think I'll reach out to him and maybe I can get him to do my photos. So it was great because during the shoot, we went to this ballet studio where he works out of, and he and his partner, who are partners in creatively and in life, were ballet dancers, and they danced with Lady Camden for like 3 years or something. And so they were really good friends. And so they had fun stories about shooting her looks from Drag Race and how long it took. And also they, like, there's been, like, you know, between the girls, like, some love affairs, and one of them is Lady Camden and Angeria. So apparently Angeria was in town, and Lady Camden was looking for someone to give Angeria a ride to the East Bay or something like that. And Max, the photographer, couldn't because he was working with me. So I felt a little Drag Race adjacent. It was fun. But Lady Camden, just incredible dancer, incredible performer, just hard worker, and finished. Her drag style wasn't my favorite, but I appreciated the work, and I love her whole ballet thing. It was just fun that she brought that to Drag Race, and she was one who kind of had trouble poking through, but then there's some really great moments where she was like, I'm here, and it was so fierce. So her her song and dance played off of a moment that she had where she was doing this whole like Freddie Mercury thing, and she tripped, but it was planned, and she then like turned into Freddie. It was really great during the season. So she kind of like did a play on that. And then her outfit reveal, it wasn't as strong as it could be, but it was really great and entertaining. Like really, really phenomenal performer. I would go to see her anywhere, and know that it's going to be great. But then Willow Pill came through, and Willow Pill was one that I was rooting for from the very start, simply because of disability, because I felt like that, like having your body limit you physically, we don't see a lot of that in the media, especially like on that level, on that stage. So to have someone dealing with a terminal like condition and disability, and that was powerful. Like we need to see that, and we need to have those people having opportunities. So I felt like, oh my God, the fact that you're here is just brilliant. And then on top of that, Willow was the weird one. Willow was so twisted and dark, and I love that. I love that so much. She did this really fun like thing in the talent show in the beginning where she did this like, oh my God, it was so trippy. She had a bathtub and she threw like spaghetti in there, and then like a toaster, and then like she got in there, and it's just funny and smart as a whip. So Willow came out to a song called I Hate People, which is the most relatable thing I can ever think of these days. And she had this like custom costume made for her with these heads, and there was reveals, and it was incredible. So her and Lady Camden advanced, and then in the lip sync, Camden did like a cute little reveal, but Willow came out as a huge cardboard like boxy blazer thing, and then revealed to be the pants, and then revealed like a cute little bodysuit underneath. So it was just so much fun and different and weird. And so RuPaul crowned Willow Pill, and super congratulations to Willow Pill. It's just so awesome. Like that is the dream, you know, like she deals with a condition called cystinosis. She is dying. Like there's degeneration happening in her body, and yet she fucking won RuPaul's Drag Race. Like, are you fucking kidding me? In her acceptance speech, she thanked Cornbread's ankle. She's like, I wouldn't be here without Cornbread's broken ankle, which is like just so fun. Apparently they're like best friends, Willow and Cornbread. They have like tattoos of each other or whatever. So yeah, the Drag Race thing, if you are in a place where you feel like you want something to get excited about, Drag Race is definitely an easy like go-to, and it's just been great. Me and my mom have been having a blast with it, and we're dipping into UK now. We're dipping into the different ways that it's expanded internationally. But yeah, it's been fun. So next up, we've got RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars 7. That's going to be really fun. I'll definitely be talking about that here. But yeah, that's going to end our TV section. We're going to roll over into film. Movies. Film. All right. So, welcome back. We are in the film section. And today, I was feeling, I knew for this week that instead of like a full-length movie, I wanted to do a comedy special. I knew I wanted to laugh. And so I had heard about Jerrod Carmichael's Rothaniel, which was just released like a couple weeks ago, I think. And yeah, I was like, I mean, it'd be fun to choose a woman, but this sounds really good. I'm going to go for it. So, me and my mom, we sat down in my studio, set up to the nice speakers, and got into it. And it's like 55 minutes. And this comedy special blew me away. Now, Jerrod Carmichael, I know he's like been around in comedy, and he's like young 30s, you know, kind of like this wave of like young Black actors, creators, like writers, producers. And he had done some voice stuff on Tyler the Creator's album Igor. He had been in this epic music video in 2018 for Jay-Z's song Moonlight. It's like one of my favorite music videos ever. And it's like him, Issa Rae is in there, Lil Rel, Howery, Tiffany Haddish. Like they do this whole spoof off on Friends. It's so good. So I knew him from like here and there, but I didn't know that much more about him, to be honest. Just like fun Black actor. And wow. Okay. So his approach for this comedy special was to be honest, because his whole life has been like shrouded in secrets. So if that isn't a good teaser, what is? So he starts the special. I already love like the quietness or the intuitiveness, maybe the introvertedness of this special. It's not loud and like coming to you live. It's not that at all. We have a snowy evening in New York City, and it begins with it's like a still shot of like the snow and street light, and there's jazz, and the color of the coloration of the film is interesting and fluctuating, and it's just beautiful. I think we might be at like the Spark Theater, or I don't know exactly where it was, but it was in New York City. And so he walks in very discreetly, you know, says hi to the manager, the host, receptionist, hangs his jacket, walks up on the stage and sits down, which also for a performer is, I mean, they call it stand up. So he sits down right away, and he remains sitting for the remainder of the show. So, okay, I'm just gonna get right into it. He's talking about his family members. He's talking about his dad cheating on his mom, and how everyone kept this secret from his mom. Like like his brother knew, cousins knew, everybody knew to the point that his best friend one time came home to his mom's house, and Jerrod's dad is sitting there on the couch. Like he was like a serial cheater. And he talks about how his grandfathers were also cheaters, but also about his name, and how like his first name, he never revealed his first name. He always was trying to hide it. He always wanted to go by Jerrod Carmichael. Excuse me, because he felt like his first name was a combination of two things that didn't, that he felt like, okay, my dad was trying to be clever and honor my grandparents, but not really feeling them. Apparently outside of his one grandfather's marriage, he had 23 children. So what I love, if we take a step back, is that he's talking about Black family. I think that's what this stand-up show is about. Now, a new topic is revealed, and perhaps maybe that's the main topic. But for me, this was very much about family and Black family. And so there's this scenario where, as a kid, he's complicit in this secret that everyone's keeping, that his dad is stepping out on his mom, and his mom is very like nice and faithful and dedicated. So it hurts even more. He talks about being the one to tell his dad that his father's gotta tell his mother about his philandering. And it's so funny how he jumps around, because he makes it feel like you're talking to like he's a friend who's telling you a story, but the way that he weaves in the jokes and the scenarios and like takes the beats and the pauses is really, really well done. And for instance, he talks about this plan that his dad came up with. Once Jerrod Carmichael was like, "Dad, you gotta tell Mom." His dad was like, "Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. You and your brother take her out to dinner, drop her off at home, and then I'll tell her." And so he was like, that was the worst dinner of my life. Like, just so funny going into the details of the dinner and everything. Like this dinner before his dad comes clean about cheating to his mother. And so he's taking super raw, painful, shameful, this is not stuff we're talking about, especially in the Black community. And he's breaking it down and being so vulnerable and honest. Like it's really beautiful. It's almost like he's channeling something within himself, not just like a funny outward thing, but like a deep inner thing. It's really unique, and I don't know that I've seen this ever before from a stand-up comedian. So essentially what happened was his mother forgave his dad and made him breakfast the next morning. And this I think this detail, this really says a lot. It says a lot about devotion. It says a lot about dynamics, gendered dynamics within the household when it comes to, cooking or doing things for yourself, like cooking, laundry, cleaning, like the woman being in charge of those things. It touches on a closed offedness that one has to continue to give and be generous after being hurt. Be generous to the person who they've been hurt by. I mean, so complex, so complicated. And yeah, this is, I don't know. I just, again, appreciate how he lets us in. And then he throws in a joke, like, he's like, the black family, I'm a huge believer in black families, black father, black mother, black children, like black excellence, and you can do whatever you want. And that's it. And he's like, for black gay men, we should be able to fuck whoever we want. We're not making babies. It was so funny. Basically, he comes out as gay. So before, no one knew Jerrod Carmichael was gay, and now everyone knows Jerrod Carmichael is gay. He came out in his stand-up special. I kind of missed that as a point in my notes, but he's got all these secrets, right? So he hides his name, and this other secret is that he's gay. He's gay. And the way that he comes out is not triumphant, not happy, not free. It's very interesting. It's also not closeted or closed, but the way that he says it is burdened. And man, I can appreciate that. After a lifetime, like 30, probably he's like 34 something, 34 years of carrying yourself a certain way because the pressures of blackness, of black masculinity, of being a man, of all these things, like when your daddy was acting this way and you need to protect your mom, and all this stuff, all this childhood trauma that builds up into your everyday behavior. Wow. He was so, and the audience was cheering for him, and he's like, I'm learning how to accept that. I need you, so I'm learning how to accept your love, even though I feel like I don't deserve that. And he went on this whole tangent about not deserving. And even like I grew up in the hood, like, sometimes me and a dude will be making out and we'll just whisper no homo to each other. Like, so funny, finding the absurdity and the humor in the complexities of growing up black in the hood as a man, as a cis man, and coming out as gay. And what was wild is, or what I think was at the root of the stand-up special was how his coming out changed his relationships with his family. And because his family is black, that's why I'm saying this is about black family. Not to say that this doesn't happen among other ethnicities or, races of people. But I know about black families and Christianity and homophobia and stuff. Like, that's my lived experience. So this, for me, it was so healing to watch. Damn. I mean, wow. I mean, like he said, from his brother, he gets like a I love you despite all the gay shit. And how hurtful that is. Even when you have, even though he has a great relationship with his nieces, and he feels like there's no pretense when talking to his brother's 14-year-old daughter. You know, his brother has, I love you despite, you know, it's rough. It's rough. And he jokes about having to remind his family, like come out to them multiple times, or like do a re-up on coming out because they forget, they block it out. Cognitive dissonance. I mean, it's brilliant what he touches on here. You do not have to be black to find relation and humor in what he's saying. It's across the board queerness in families, but there's a special thing about Black Christian families and gayness and that sort of thing. So, the way he says, my mom, I was one of her best friends. It's just like, oh my God. The way he uses past tense, I was one of her best friends. Like, it's like, oh, just heartbreaking. And, her way of reacting when he came out was to say, I can't go against Jesus, and ignore it. And damn, I mean, again, like, it's just wild. I thought about visiting some family friends in Tennessee, and this was kind of like the last time that I saw them, and I was having a conversation with like my auntie, essentially, and she was like, we were she was every time I would come to visit, she talked to me about Christianity and Jesus and proselytize, which fine, it's I'm cool with God loving people. Like I went to church. I would be Christian if I wasn't so snarky and cynical. So it's like, okay, it's like, I got you. So, but and I hadn't come to my own queerness. I hadn't come into my own queerness yet, but all my, like everyone who I grow, like queerness and gay life is all around me, especially when you grow up in like gymnastics and diving and like things like this. You like all the, like, it's, yeah, there's a lot of queerness everywhere. And so if you're aware of it, then you are aware of it, and it feels a certain way. And so what was my point with this? Oh yes. So when I was speaking with my auntie, and I was like I can't get behind like the condemning of gay people. And she said, well, you can be gay. You just can't have sex. And I was like, it's so funny now, but like in the moment I broke down in tears. Well, I cry at everything, but it was like, you're not getting it. Like you're still like, if that's the whole, how is that being accepting? It's not being accepting. It's, yeah. So I feel this. I feel this so hard. And it's just fantastic that Jerrod Carmichael is brave enough to be honest with us, because as queer POC and as queer like Black people, there's so much to wade through and so much to go up against, not just in Black culture, but with religion, which defines culture. So it's wild. Jerrod Carmichael talks about how he had to reconfigure his relationship with God, which I thought was so powerful. And yeah, he talks about that element of the performance of who you're supposed to be. And I really could relate to this. Like he said, he's afraid of not smiling sometimes, just because like that's how he should feels like he should present to be like non-threatening or whatever. I shouldn't say or whatever. It's really real. I can relate to this so much, because similar to his like mother's devotion to his father, it's like my mindset growing up as a girl into a woman was, you're there to serve, to cook, to clean, to you don't need to be dominating the conversation. You don't need to be involved in the brandy and the golf and the, you know, it's very like exclusive. So yeah, and even with like my relationships with white people, like I really had to go through this thing of being like, I can't be who the white people in my life are having me be. It's hard. It's a very tricky thing to explain. And this is what I explore in my music, because it's such a trip being white and black. It's like one part of your body is oppressing the other. It's just strange, but I really had to strip everything that I had grown up with and throw it out and unlearn it. And I had to relearn and read and consume and engage with Black culture, POC, like different people of color's perspective, especially people like in the States or in Western countries like Germany, but seeking out the marginalized communities' voices. And so, yeah, it's a difficult thing to kind of come into your queerness, because you have to kind of, it's race too though, like come into your race, come into your queerness, like you can't be who people see you as and do your own thing. You have to make a choice. And it's very clear, for instance, like on Drag Race, it's very clear who has made the choice to do their own thing and who is living for others. And I don't think living for others is wrong. You know, I think a lot of people have people who they love so much and don't want to lose those relationships. So I never think that's wrong. But I think there is that point where you do have to decide. And it's very clear that if you don't decide, then if you don't decide to do your own thing, you're holding yourself back. But like Jerrod Carmichael is showing us, you lose relationships. You lose people who you love and who love you. So this was wild. Something else I thought was so unique about it was that the whole time he's sitting, right? And sometimes he's saying things and he's got his hand over his face. Sometimes he's pausing. It's pain. He's showing us his pain. He's making room for it, space for it, pauses for it. Like there are long pauses of silence in this stand-up set because he's grappling with what's happening. It's wild to see, and that he lets us see this. And it was also interesting. I don't know if this was planned. Like he starts off, like the first half of the set is kind of like he's like open, his legs are open and in this masculine kind of way of sitting, and then he closes them. But yeah, this hunchedness, this vulnerability, you have to see it. Like it's wild. And the most special thing, unique thing, was that there would be in these pauses, the audience is receiving his pain, right? And so different people throughout the show will comment or ask a question, and it's not heckling. It's like they're asking their friend who they care about. And it's so generous to see. It's very special. That's what I'm saying. Like this is not a normal. I've never seen a stand-up like this, a stand-up special like this. Not only because he is sitting, but because the engagement and the honesty and the rawness, the vulnerability. It's like a salon almost. It's like I'm coming out as gay to my family and they don't want to fuck with me anymore. I'm only laughing because it's, because of how difficult it is. And I think some of these questions that the audience engage him with, like someone's like, do you think you're going to be okay if your mother never comes around? Just wild, and he doesn't take a beat. He answers right away. It's yeah, if you want something different and nuanced and groundbreaking, especially for the next generation coming through, and especially when we have comedians like Dave Chappelle and Kevin Hart and Amy Schumer who are kind of violent with their humor. It's like, I get it. Comedians, there's no boundaries, whatever. But I love a smart comedian who can make everyone bust out into laughter from any hard topic. And he's taking black, gay. He's taking the intersection of like black, Christian, and gay. Like this is a moment. So definitely go check it out. And then there's some fun interviews. We watched his interview with Seth Meyers, and apparently his mother and father had like just watched it and called him as he's on the way to the studio, and he's passing billboards of himself. There's like police sirens and like other shit going on. It's New York. But he's talking to them on the phone, and he's like, it went almost well. It went well because, like there was some things. But then when my mother said like, why do you have to ruin this with your sins or something like that? And then he was like, and then I got out of the car and then now I'm here. So his it's almost like his style of comedy is like raw honesty. And I imagine it wasn't always that way. He seems extremely developed as a comedian. So my mom and I are like so pumped to go back and watch his earlier work and kind of see the transition and like this person who made it in show business and then stepped out and is making it again because of living in their truth as a cisgendered black gay man. It's incredible. So this is on HBO Max, but like just figure out a way. You got to see it. If you care about comedy, you got to see this. And if you do watch it, please let me know. Thank you everyone for commenting after the episodes and stuff. I love your comments. They're great. And yeah, I never am like, go watch everything I told you to watch, but I do love when someone's like, yeah, I checked this thing out and it was really cool. So thank you. It's like, oh, that's awesome. I love to engage around these things. Like I love to get excited and nerd out about these things. So I'm here for that. Gonna end this section there. Again, it's, oh my God. And I didn't say this. Oof, good thing I didn't end it without not saying the title. So Jerrod Carmichael ends the special by saying, like he's like, I keep the secret. He started off by saying, I keep the secret of my name, And then so he says at the very end, he's like, my name's Rothaniel. Good night. And then he gets up, gets out. It's just brilliant. It's beautiful. It's incredible. And this was also directed by Bo Burnham. I have more thoughts on I have so many more thoughts. If I had more like time or like a bigger team, I would do another like side podcast with like the extra bits because I love it so much. But I'm going to end it here for time's sake. Thank you so much for sticking with me, and we're going to do a little quick outro and close it out. Hey, listen, sometimes you gotta check in with yourself.
Check in with yourself.
All right, so I'm gonna aim to keep this intro pretty short, but I started a new job. It's a temporary job, and it's called Studios Facility Support, and it's basically a dream come true. I went and got my education graduated in 2016, had no confidence in myself. So I would like write emails to music studios, but I had no belief that they would choose me. So I never sent any of them. And then when I moved here to the Bay this year, I knew about this studio called Women's Audio Mission. It's a women run and led and owned studio. And it does incredible things for women and girls and femmes and gender diverse folks in the field of audio. So it's like this huge blessing. And last week was my second week, just coming in twice a week for cleaning and like shadowing and doing whatever, setting up, breaking down stuff. And so it's been amazing. There's been a couple times where I fucked up, and I took it really hard, not during, not to anyone's face, but like to myself. I took it really hard because it had been 4 years since I'd been in the workforce outside of, hustling, doing gigs and stuff as an artist. So to, be back in that environment and be in a very professional environment, to kind of like not really fuck. I didn't seriously fuck up anything, but just to not be doing well when you so want to do well. That's what I'm touching on. And it's kind of like when you learn a language or you learn a new skill or something. Like, you have to be shit at it, and you have to let yourself be shit at it. And I remember among the past few years being around like people identifying as white cis men, and then being like, yeah, I wanted to do production, like I wanted to learn how to be a producer or whatever, but it was like too hard or whatever. And I was like, well, you didn't want to do it that bad, because yeah, it's hard, but you have to work for anything like that you're doing. And just like that inability to humble oneself and be bad at something, I think there was like an ego piece there. And so for me, everyone deals with the ego. And for me, I have this like goody thing where like, if I'm showing up for a job, I want to fucking kill it. And I'm really like, okay, you can make mistakes. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to put in 110%. You can put in 95. Like, it's like letting go, and my foot is in the door in a way that will never go away. So I am only triumphing here, even when I'm made to feel, worse. But also with great things, with big things, with huge endeavors that we take on, we have to be willing to be at that place where it's like, I'm a nobody, or I'm super green. I barely know what the fuck is going on. And I want to, I guess, encourage you to pick up something that maybe you felt like, no, like I can't do this. This is too much. Because you probably can do it, and you probably will enjoy doing it. Especially if it's something you've been actively avoiding. That probably means you'll really, really enjoy it if you do it. And yeah, for me, it was this part of it is this program. You can use different programs to make music, different software programs. And I've been using Ableton for years and years, and now the studio standard is Pro Tools. And so I have to start on a new DAW. So I know what I'm doing with recording, but I have to relearn it through this more tricky and technical software. And it's difficult, but I'm doing it. I'm making it through. So, and also German, the German language, it just always felt like when I was in Germany, like I just had to hustle so hard in other ways that there wasn't really time outside of school, outside of like after I did my German school. I never felt like there was good times to practice and to get better. So I picked up the Duolingo. It's small, but that's fun. And especially if you're like not going to work every day, or you want a little something to break up your routine, and like a little something you can do every day, Duolingo is really fun too. So like language learning, instrument learning, a skill, a hobby, whatever it is. Don't be afraid to look dumb and be shamed or whatever, because you're going to get to a place of proficiency and then be like, I wasn't even like allowing myself to learn because my ego was getting in the way. So yeah, that's what I have today, trying to deflate the ego and become better and more knowledgeable and more skilled. So sending love to everyone. Currently looking for like a name for fans or for like the community. So like low power mode. If you can think of something with low power mode or with Breezy, I'm open to suggestions. The library is open. So thank you so much for tuning in again for another episode. Happy May, and catch you next week. Ciao.
I've been in low power mode. In low power mode. Been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear. I've been in low. I've been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear.